may think we're living through a test of free speech like we've never seen before, but we have seen it in different ways over and over again.
We get a lot of derogatory letters saying that we are communists, pinkos, and those are the good letters.
In 1969, the Smothers Brothers were abruptly canceled after saying controversial things in a charged political climate.
The precedent will be set that you cannot do it. It's a no-no, so nobody will try it.
But many others did try it, like Bill Maher, who lost his show in 2002 after, again, saying controversial things in a charged political climate.
If I had to choose between losing my soul or losing my show, I'm glad I chose losing my show.
Then he got another show where he continues to rail against cancel culture from the left and from the right, at least for now.
I know why you're happy tonight. I'm still on.
Going way back in time, President John Adams actually banned Americans from criticizing the president and Congress. Under John Adams' Sedition Act, journalists and politicians got arrested for criticizing John Adams.
It shall be a crime to utter or publish writings against the government of the United States with intent to defame.
Well, that Sedition Act expired in 1801, but some 60 years later, during the Civil War, Lincoln's administration shut down anti-war newspapers and they jailed journalists without trial. And then during World War I, President Wilson's Sedition Act punished critics of the war and critics of the U.S. government with up to 20 years in prison. And then came the modern pressures on performers like the Smothers Brothers who mocked authority.
So who's running the country? The morons.
Well, President Lyndon Johnson wrote, "It is part of the price of leadership of this great and free nation to be the target of clever satirists. May we never grow so somber or self-important that we fail to appreciate that." But it was also Johnson who pressured the network to censor the Smothers Brothers, contradicting his own words.
That our own freedom depends upon the freedom of others.
And then Nixon arrived, and furious with negative coverage in the Washington Post, he said the Post is going to have some problems, noting that they have a television station that requires an FCC license. And he said the game has to be played awfully rough. Yes, as his allies challenged that station's FCC license, as Nixon and his staff kept an enemies list of journalists who criticized him, who he then tried to pressure and intimidate with the powers of the federal government.
The press is the enemy. The press is the enemy. The press is the enemy.
We may like to think the U.S. has been the perfect model for freedom of expression, but we've had some ups and downs and repeatedly struggled over where to draw the line. In 1919, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote, "Protection of free speech would not protect a man in falsely shouting fire in a theater and causing a panic." The Supreme Court therefore ruled the First Amendment does not cover words that pose a clear and present danger. And then in 1969, the Supreme Court set the modern standard. Speech that incites imminent lawless action can be banned, but everything else is fair game.
We do not censor and silence disfavored viewpoints. People in America are allowed to say crazy things.
And then came January 6th, 2021.
We don't have a free and fair press, and it's become the enemy of the people. It's become the enemy of the people. When you catch somebody in a fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules.
The Biden administration said Trump's words crossed the line by inciting the Capitol riots. Social media shut down Trump's accounts. And then in a separate move, the Biden administration pressed social media companies to censor posts about the pandemic. Google and YouTube's lawyers told Congress that Biden officials pressured them to remove content that did not violate YouTube's policies. Facebook and Instagram CEO told Congress the Biden administration also repeatedly pressured them to censor some COVID content, including humor and satire. And several states sued, calling it government coercion.
This was a leviathan of government agencies that came together to try to crush dissent.
Well, the Supreme Court tossed the case on standing, but the controversy fueled Trump's comeback. He won re-election promising to restore free speech.
I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America.
But the assassination of Charlie Kirk sparked the next flashpoint. Republicans said the gunman killed Kirk out of hate, and the Trump administration said it would go after hate speech.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society. We will absolutely target you, go after you.
And while Bondi later walked that back under a torrent of criticism from conservatives, Trump also said broadcast networks that are overly critical of him may lose their broadcast licenses.
They give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It would be up to Brendan Clark.
Now, that's Trump's FCC chairman who said Jimmy Kimmel should face repercussions for claiming, among other things, that Kirk's killer was part of the MAGA movement.
I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Which drew pushback from across the aisle and notably conservative Senator Ted Cruz.
What he said there is dangerous as hell. He threatens it. He says, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
And while Carr later walked that back, it's all raised concerns about free speech that go back to our founding. Our framers won a revolution against a king who silenced and punished dissent. They knew freedom of expression, as critical or relentless or incorrect at times as it can be, is a powerful check against tyranny. Because without that, truth would become whatever government decides, and every other right would be at risk. Ironically, though, many of our founding fathers also lived through the first Sedition Act and saw firsthand how free speech would be restricted by some of their own. In short, America was born on words that challenge powers, but then led by powers that challenge words. This is how liberty is tested, and how it erodes, and how it endures when we pass the test.